Sarah Hayes never imagined she'd end up in a penthouse negotiating with America's most dangerous criminal. But when your younger sister is dying and hospitals are asking for millions you don't have, you do the unthinkable. "Miss Hayes," said Don Vincent, studying her with eagle eyes, "do you understand the terms of the agreement?" Sarah swallowed hard. The man before her radiated power and danger. "Yes, sir. I will have your child. After birth, I'll receive full payment and will never have contact with you or the child again." "Correct. You'll live here during the pregnancy. You'll have the best doctors, the best food, everything you need. But you won't be able to leave or communicate with anyone. When my son is born, you disappear. Any questions?" "Just one." Sarah looked directly into his eyes, showing a courage that surprised the mobster. "Why are you doing this?" Vincent remained silent for a moment. "Because an empire without an heir is an empire doomed to die," he finally answered. "And I don't plan to die without leaving my mark on this world." In the shadows of New York City, where power is measured in dollars and bullets, reigned Don Vincent Castellano. At 45 years old, he was the most feared man on the East Coast. He controlled everything, from the streets of Brooklyn to the ports of New Jersey. But there was something all his money couldn't buy: an heir. His wife had died years ago in a mob hit, and since then Vincent had become an obsessed man. He needed a son. A boy who would carry his name, his empire, his legacy. One November night, in his penthouse in Manhattan, his lawyer presented him with an unconventional solution. "Don Vincent, I found the perfect candidate," said Attorney Richards, nervous. "Her name is Sarah Hayes. She's an elementary school teacher, 28 years old, no family, no commitments. For $2 million, she agrees to have your child and disappear after birth." Vincent lit a Cuban cigar and looked out the window at the city lights he controlled. "Is she sure?" he asked in a deep voice. "She needs the money to save her sister who has cancer. She's desperate, boss. Bring her to me tomorrow." The months passed slowly in that golden cage. Sarah had everything except freedom. Little by little, she began to see another side of Don Vincent. Yes, he was a criminal, but he was also a lonely man who visited her room every night just to ask how she was feeling. "The baby kicked today," Sarah said one March afternoon. "May I?" asked Vincent, pointing to her belly. She nodded. When the feared Mafia boss placed his hand on her belly and felt the kick, his eyes filled with tears for the first time in decades. "My son," he whispered. "My heir." Sarah felt something strange in her heart. Compassion, perhaps. Or maybe something more dangerous. On June 15th, at 3:47 in the morning, contractions began. Vincent turned an entire wing of his penthouse into a private maternity ward. The best doctors in New York were invited to attend the birth. "Push, Miss Hayes." "Almost there," the doctor shouted. Vincent waited outside, pacing back and forth like a caged lion. His men had never seen him so nervous, not even during the worst shootouts. Finally, after 8 hours of labor, a baby's cry was heard. The doctor came out, pale as a ghost. "Don Vincent, you need to come in. Now." Vincent entered the room expecting to see his baby boy, the heir to his empire. What he saw left him frozen in place. Sarah was holding in her arms not one, but 2 babies. Twin girls. 2 identical girls with emerald green eyes and jet-black hair. "No, this can't be," Vincent murmured, staggering. "The ultrasounds, they said it was a boy. Just one." The doctor, trembling, explained. "Don Vincent, there was a twin hidden behind the other in all the exams. And at the last moment, we discovered that they're girls." Vincent felt the world spinning. His entire plan, his entire obsession with a male heir, crumbled in an instant. Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes, hugging the babies against her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't know. But then something happened that no one expected. Don Vincent Castellano, the man who had ordered the death of hundreds, the man who never showed weakness, fell to his knees beside the bed. With trembling hands, he touched the tiny hands of his daughters. "Look at them," he said with a broken voice. "They're perfect." Sarah was confused. She expected fury, maybe violence. Not this. "For months," Vincent continued, unable to take his eyes off the twins, "I was obsessed with having a son because that's what my father taught me. Men build empires," he said. "But my father was wrong." He took one of the babies in his arms with a tenderness his men would never have imagined possible. "These girls will be stronger than any man. I'll teach them everything. They'll be ruthless, intelligent, powerful. I don't need an heir. I have two." Sarah felt something break inside her. The agreement was clear: deliver the baby and disappear. But now there were two babies. Her babies. She had felt them grow inside her for 9 months. The agreement. She began to say. "The agreement has changed," Vincent interrupted, looking at her for the first time with true emotion. "You can't leave." "What?" Sarah pressed the other twin against her chest. "I thought I wanted a transaction. An heir in exchange for money. But this—" Vincent looked at his daughters. "They need their mother. And you have proven to be stronger than I imagined." "You bought me like cattle," Sarah said with tears of rage. "And now what?" "I stay as your prisoner forever." "No." Vincent carefully placed the baby in the crib. "You stay as the mother of my daughters. As—" he swallowed hard, "as my family." Silence filled the room. "During these 9 months," he continued, "I learned something. Power isn't about controlling people. It's about protecting those you love. And I don't know how it happened, but you three became the only thing I want to protect." Sarah looked at him, searching for deception, manipulation. But she only saw truth in his eyes. "My sister," she finally said. "I need to know she's okay." "Your sister is receiving the best treatment in Houston. Payments started the day you arrived here. She's responding well. She'll live." More tears. This time of relief. "So, what are you proposing?" Sarah asked. "That we rewrite the rules," Vincent said. "These girls deserve to grow up with both parents. And I need to learn to be something more than a mafia boss. I need to learn to be a father. And maybe you can teach me." The Manhattan penthouse had changed. Where there were once meetings of criminals, now there were baby toys. Where operations were once planned, now bottles were prepared. Sarah was rocking Valentina while Vincent held Isabella. The twins were 6 months old and were the light of their lives. "Who would have thought?" Sarah said with a smile. The fearsome Don Vincent Castellano, changing diapers at 3 in the morning. "Shut up," he responded, but smiling too. "This is harder than running a cartel." Something unexpected had happened during those months. They had formed a strange, dysfunctional, but real family. Vincent was still a criminal, but now he had lines he wouldn't cross. There were businesses he rejected if they endangered his daughters. And Sarah. Sarah had stayed not for the money, but because she saw the man behind the monster. And against all logic, she had fallen in love with him. "My sister wants to meet the girls," Sarah said one night. Vincent didn't hesitate. "Bring her. Let her stay as long as she needs. She's family." Family. That word meant something completely different now. But happiness in Don Vincent's world never lasted long. One December night, while the twins slept, a message arrived. The Moretti family, his most dangerous rival, had discovered the existence of his daughters. "We have to leave," Vincent said, packing urgently. "Now." What's happening? Sarah saw real fear in his eyes for the first time. The Morettas know about the girls. They're coming for them. For you. In that moment, Sarah understood the true price of being with a man like Vincent. The danger would never disappear. Then we'll fight, she said with determination. I'm their mother. No one will touch my daughters. Vincent looked at her with a mixture of pride and terror. That's why I love you, he said, and it was the first time he spoke those words. The night of the attack came 3 days later. 20 Moretti hitmen surrounded the penthouse. Vincent had prepared everything. His best men, weapons, escape routes. But when the shooting started, he knew it wouldn't be enough. Take the girls, he shouted at Sarah, pushing her toward the secret tunnel. Go to the safe house in Connecticut. Don't come out until I come for you. I won't leave you, she screamed over the sound of bullets. Gio, he roared. If you love me, if you love our daughters, go now. I'm the boss of the most powerful mafia on the East Coast. I'll survive. But them, they can't be here. Sarah knew he was right. With tears in her eyes, she took the twins and ran toward the tunnel. The last thing she saw was Vincent, the man who had paid for a son and found a family, shooting against 20 men to give them time to escape. Valentina and Isabella were running through the garden of a house in a small Connecticut town. They were 3.5 years old now, full of energy and questions. Mommy, Mommy, when is Daddy coming? Valentina shouted. Sarah smiled from the porch. Beside her, Vincent hugged her by the waist. He had survived that night, though with scars that would never disappear. And he had done the unthinkable. He had left the cartel. I'm already here, Princess, Vincent said, kneeling to hug his daughters. He had made the hardest decision of his life. He handed his empire to his second-in-command and disappeared with his family. Now they were the Hayes, a normal family in a quiet town. Vincent had opened a restaurant. Sarah taught at a local school. They didn't have the power from before. Not the money. Not the fear of others. But they had something much more valuable. They had love. They had family. They had peace. You know, Sarah told him that night while the girls slept. When that doctor came out and told you there were twin girls, I thought you'd go crazy. I did go crazy, Vincent admitted. But in the best way possible. I paid for an heir and got 2 queens. And a woman who changed my entire world. They kissed under the stars, far from the dangers of their former life. Because sometimes, life's biggest shock turns out to be life's biggest blessing. And so, the Mafia boss who wanted a son to inherit his empire discovered that true power wasn't in ruling with fear, but in loving without limits. If the story of Don Vincent, Sarah, and the twins touched your heart, give us a like thumbs up. It helps us tremendously to keep creating stories that move you. And hey, if you want more stories like this, full of unexpected twists, drama, and endings that'll leave you thinking, subscribe to the channel bell. Every week we bring new stories you won't want to miss. Stories of love, suspense, second chances, and those life moments that change you forever. See you in the next story. Sparkles. Your stories that touch the soul team.